Hello.
Yeah, hello. So in both the
Yes.
strips, you have the positions given as M13 EGFP 149 to 238, EGFP 1 to 144, and then calmodulin. And in the second
Yeah,
strip, you
sure.
have the same positions written. Could you go to the last strip?
In the
Yeah.
second strip?
You have the same things written, right? M13 EGFP 149
Yeah.
to 238.
Yeah.
So not exactly sure how are you showing that they're different in a certain way.
No,
I'm not
I'm not
getting the
showing these are
preference.
different. So these, I didn't even get to the second part of the strip, like the
Oh,
second
okay.
picture, G-Camp wala.
No.
Okay, you're totally mistaken. Wait. So I'm talking about the G3 module right now.
Okay. Oh, fine. Okay, fine. Right. So
Okay.
this is just an arrangement of strips over there.
Yeah. ये बेसिकली तुम सोचो कि क्या बताओगे स्ट्रिंग्स हाँ प्रोटीन है सो यू बेसिकली नो यू like attach amino acids to one another, then they basically form a strip, like you know.
All right. So the for G3 one is this particular arrangement of strips you have. You haven't cut it yet, or some. It doesn't show any kind of lifting.
No.
Okay.
ये जो पिक्चर है तुम्हारा, दिस इज सर्कुलरली परम्यूटेड EGFP, इट्स नॉट EGFP. सो आई एम टेलिंग यू अबाउट EGFP. सो हमारे EGFP में क्या था? So the EGFP was from 1 to 238, the complete EGFP barrel structure. Okay. तो हमने उसको एक पोजीशन में कट किया which is 144. So like 144th पोजीशन में हमने उसको कट कर दिया. ठीक है. Then you take, so तुम्हारा next the very next protein कौन सा होगा? 145th position वाला protein, right?
Yes, fine.
Then you take and you sort of 239 वाला position which you are like तुम पीछे से वो strip लो फिर उसको आगे connect कर दो sort of. ठीक है.
Okay, so basically you take the strip from 1 to 144 and connect it at the 239th position.
Exactly. 249.
239, right? 238. It's still there from 140. You said it's from 1 to 238. So if I'm cutting it out at 144.
Exactly.
So the first part will be connected to the 239th position.
Sorry, to 139. Sorry, क्या?
No, I'm saying, so when you're cutting it at 144, then you have this strip from 1 to 144, and so you're connecting it at 239th position, right? Because the remaining strip is from 145 to 238. So the next position will be 239. So you'll be connecting the first part of the first strip to 239th position.
Yeah. You can say like that.
Yeah, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
फिर मतलब it's sort of you're taking that strip सामने and then ये वाला पीछे हो जाता है, like basic like strip attaching to each other, whatever. So then you see this GGT GGS thing there, right? So now we were attaching EGFP का permutation करके आगे पीछे, ठीक है? What role this GGT GGS has? So basically this GGT GGS was a linker. So these guys, what they did, they tried attaching the EGFP by permuting it और उसको 238 and फिर 1 को attach करने का कोशिश किया, but it sort of didn't show fluorescence. So what they thought कि if they make it a little flexible by attaching a linker, which shown here is GGTGGS. Okay, so if they make it a bit flexible by attaching a linker, so just to tell you about the functionality of this linker, these EGFPs work like two hands, and this linker is basically holding those two hands, right? So and then you see a cam here. Okay, so this CAM is attached at the end of EGFP. CAM is nothing but a short form for calmodulin, and calmodulin has the function to detect calcium ions. Okay, like just remember it like that. And on the extreme left side, you see at the N terminus there is M13. So अभी AGFP के साथ जो भी किया था किया, but then you take M13 and you attach it with a linker to the EGFP का N terminus, right? So you get this G3 का whole strip. Is that okay with everyone? I don't know मतलब कितना समझा पाई मैं?
Okay.
Could you repeat? No, could you repeat?
Yeah, please ask more question. तो मैं मतलब आगे proceed करूँगी कि नहीं पता समझ में नहीं आएगा.
Could you just repeat what you said once more?
हाँ, कौन से part से? Which part?
I didn't get. So what happens at the N terminus once again?
अच्छा, you see G3, right?
Yes.
So G3 का N terminus और left side में N terminus and right side में C terminus दिख रहा है, right?
Yeah.
So अभी हम लोग जितना भी EGFP का कहानी बोले blah blah, ठीक है? So basically you're cutting those sheet और तुम ऐसे उसको attach कर रहे हो, but not exactly they're attached to each other, but they are attached to a linker called GGTGGS. It's an inert linker. So okay, I'll give you an analogy. जैसे कि सोच लो तुम्हारा body है. So your body is GGTGGS. Okay. And the EGFP का first part and EGFP का second palm is your hand. Second part is your hand. Are your hands. ठीक है. तुम्हारा right hand is EGFP का 498 वाला 149 वाला strip, and your left hand is 144 वाला strip, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Then let's take your palms. So calmodulin is your right palm, maybe. Think about it. Okay. Calmodulin is your right wala palm and M39 is your left wala palm. So this was the idea behind their design. Okay. So they are putting a linker which is GTGGS, and there which is basically connecting your two arms side by side, which is EGFP, and then at the palm you have calmodulin and M13. Okay. So okay, fine. ये डिजाइन की बात हो गई, ठीक है. फिर उन लोगों ने कुछ ऑप्टिमाइजेशन किया. Then they went to the second strip, which is GCAM 8 G85. Okay. So this was the like उन लोगों ने कुछ linkers change किए, थोड़ा उसका fluorescence आगे पीछे करके देखा कि किसमें max fluorescence आता है. Then they reached to a point which then they made the fluorescence and named it like fluorescent protein design, and they named it GCAM. Okay, so that was all about the sensor.
The linkers are artificially attached?
Artificially as in? Yeah, they were not there.
Okay, I see. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so basically you अब तुम्हें अपना बॉडी से लेके अपने आर्म मूव्स करने के लिए कुछ जॉइंट्स चाहिए, राइट? अब तुम एक प्रोटीन है उसके मतलब दिस स्ट्रिप हैज टू मूव अराउंड, राइट? टू सॉर्ट ऑफ लाइक कैमोडुलिन एंड M13 का मैंने बात बताया दैट दे एक्ट लाइक palms, राइट? सो in our body we have joints to move the hands and stuff. So in the same way, they put some linker so that it can work flexibly. Is that clear with everybody?
Okay.
बाकी लोगों का response ही नहीं आ रहा है भाई यार, क्या कर रहे हो? समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं किसी को?
Okay, it's okay.
तू ही okay बोलिश ना. Where are rest of the people? Okay, then I'll move ahead. ठीक है, तो अब इट वाज ऑल अबाउट द डिजाइन एंड ए, मतलब ए वाला पिक्चर जिसमें बहुत सारा हमने डिजाइन का बात किया. देन वी मूव ऑन टू द बी पार्ट. So what Rabish I was talking about, GFP, EGFP, after this permutation करके उसको आगे चिपकाने का, पीछे चिपकाने का, it makes a new barrel structure which is called CPGFP. ठीक है, मैंने तुम लोगों को GFP का जो स्ट्रक्चर दिखाया था पहले, it is basically the same thing, just you're like taking the strip and थोड़ा उल्टा सीधा करके you ultimately get the same beta barrel structure. Okay. So here you see this barrel structure of EGFP. So ऊपर जो हमने डिजाइनिंग की थी in the A part, this is like diagram, like intuitive diagram of that. Like it's a rough sketch to explain कि ये actually कैसे काम करता है. So as I said कि you take CPGFP, EGFP, इसके बीच में linkers है जो इसको connect करते हैं, ठीक है, and take it as an arm जो कि like जैसे toy, वो toys होते हैं ना which have two arms which clap, like वो बंदर वाला टॉय होता था, दो आर्म्स छोटे छोटे होते थे, it used to make clapping action only. So in the same way, when अगर कोई कैल्शियम फ्लक्स आया, so calmodulin basically detects calcium flux. Okay, so जैसे कोई कैल्शियम आयन आया and CAM and M13, what they do is like catches it. So calmodulin and M30 has affinity for calcium ions, right? So what they will do, like what this biosensor will do, is catch calcium ion between calmodulin and M13. And इतना सब कुछ बकवास करने का ये नतीजा हुआ कि when they catch this calcium ions between these two hands, calmodulin and M13, ये EGFP glow करेगा. Your EGFP will glow basically. And then we go to the pictures. You see a cytosolic Ca2 plus waves that triggers contraction at the cleavage furrow during embryonic development. So basically, I'll tell you the story behind this. So तुम्हारा 40 MPF में you see this ball structure. This is basically a fertilized zebrafish egg. ठीक है, so zebrafish and xenopus and many other small organisms, they are used for developmental studies. So this biosensor was used for one of the developmental study. So what they did ki in the first 30 MPF picture, you see a fertilized zebrafish egg, right? And this zebrafish egg is well injected with this CAM ka biosensor, right? This calmodulin biosensor. As I told you earlier, that ये calmodulin senses calcium ion flux, right? So you see when, so all of us know कि जब egg fertilize हो जाता है, it divides into cells further, into further cells, and when it divides, it sort of causes a furrow between the division. So 40 MPF mein you can see a furrow which has a bright red signal coming out of it. So what is this bright red signal? So this is basically your calmodulin biosensor present there, which is sensing calcium ion. So the calcium ion, it's not detecting calcium ion anywhere else in the egg. It's just detecting calcium ion at the furrow. So by this study, they got to know कि calcium ion का कितना बड़ा role है at the cleavage furrow, right? So you basically know कि like एक egg होता है, उसका मतलब ऐसे डिवीजन होता है, देन इट बिकम्स 2 4 8 ऐसे ऐसे वो ब्लास्टुला बनता है, व्हाटएवर. सो दिस वाज द स्टडी व्हिच शोड कि कैल्शियम आयन वेव्स की वजह से तुम्हारा फरो इनिशिएशन होता है. सो दिस वाज अ बिग स्टडी अगेन. तो हमारा पिछला जितना भी बायोसेंसर डेवलपमेंट किया था, देन वी मूव्ड ऑन टू दिस CP-EGFP biosensor. So does anybody want to know कि इस मतलब पिछले वाले डिजाइन में क्या प्रॉब्लम था जो हम इस पे मूव ऑन किए? Is everybody asleep?
We will leave it for the end if we have time. Is that okay with everyone, I guess?
I don't know, मुझे मतलब बात करने में ज्यादा मजा आ रहा है. Anyway, okay, then I'll rush it. मतलब मैं खत्म कर लेती हूँ. Then you guys ask questions if that's like okay.
We will leave it to the
मुझे yeah because मुझे भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा कब बढ़ना है नहीं कब बढ़ना है. Okay, cool. So then we move on to the fin sensor our lab is working on. ठीक है. तो this was the sensor I was working in. तो the study you saw here was calcium ion calmodulin wala structure. So यहाँ से what we did is ये तो EGFP का circularly permuted beta barrel structure बनाया था इन लोगों ने. So we went on to make a circularly permuted what do you say green fluorescent protein. So you see this is EGFP, this is not GFP. So CP here means circularly permuted, E means enhanced, and GFP is like green fluorescent protein. So basically what our lab did was take the GFP, not EGFP, do the same, and they did the same circular permutation. And they sort of on the left side you can see the, actually I cannot reveal the actual picture of it, वो अभी तक publish नहीं हुआ है. So I sort of got a more intuitive और एक अच्छा सा picture I've put up so that you can go on and see how it actually works. So here is this beta barrel structure which has a chromophore inside it, जो हमने basic diagram dekha in the previous structure. So here calcium is coming in and your calmodulin and M30 domain is sort of catching it, and what happens is the FP domain, the fluorescent protein domain, glows as soon as the calcium influx happens. So in our paper, so on the right side there is this very basic design of what our reporter, how our reporter looks like. It's not a like very good presentation, it's very unpublished, so I was not allowed to use any other picture. So anyway, this was very intuitive. So हमारा जो target है, which earlier we were saying is fin, is active fin. So you can see orange target is in off state, and when it's in off state, none of the binder or the reporter is interacting with it. And as soon as your target goes on state, your binder sort of binds to it and the reporter glows. So this was the basic intuitive idea to it. So as we move on, so in this case you see a binder, in this picture. There is this reporter, there is this target. So I'll talk about the binder first. So fin SH3 domain ka, we saw earlier कि there was this binder which was specifically binding to fin SH3 domain. So F29 was the binder. Okay, so people previously in our lab, they did NMR studies there, and then somehow crystallization and stuff. And after a lot of study, they found out कि F29 binder that specifically goes and bind to fin SH3 at these various places. And then they sort of diluted out the fin SH3 domain structure too. So this was important to further know कि actually कौन से interactions हो रहे हैं and what are the all what are the like interactions happening between binder and the domain, SH3 domain of the kinase, which can be manipulated to maybe do something else, or at least you have to know कि वो कैसे bind कर रहा है, मतलब ऐसे bind कर गया तुक्का मार लिया. It's not like that. So they actually did NMR studies and they saw overlap between these motifs of FinSH3 and F29 binder. So this was like more or less about the Fin binder.
One thing, hello. One thing in the previous slide, the last one had, there are the some joining. No. After this, what are you showing? After this one. So you are showing that in that case, there are some is blue line and some is red line. Is there anything change in the binding or something, the bond?
Yeah, good observation. So some of the bindings were covalent. Okay. Some of them were electrostatic and some of them were salt bridges. Okay.
Oh, which color? Which one?
So you can see there are V21 F. So in F29 you can see, right, V21 F22 tyrosine. So these were mostly making. So they were making you can see they are interacting with multiple parts of FinSH3. It's not like just one-to-one interaction, right? So one single point at F29 were like sort of interacting with a lot of other sections of FinSH3. So the blue ones are the covalent protein like protein interactions, and black ones are mostly salt bridge, and the red one I forgot actually. The red one I'll confirm and tell you.
Okay. It's okay.
So this is how they got to know. So this diagram actually shows how the fin binder interacts with FinSH3, and good observation that the blue lines, the black lines, and the red lines actually tell you the interactions that was happening between them. So okay, to move on, these are some spectral emission pictures. Okay, I'm too bored now. So on the left side there is this CFP and this YFP. So I told you guys about this FRET biosensor, right? So FRET biosensor, M-serulin is basically a blue fluorescent protein, okay, and the M-venus is a yellow fluorescent protein. It's evident, you can see. So as we go on, when we see the spectral data, CFP, okay, so this is actually emission peaks, right? So CFP excites around this dotted line, and then it gets excited to like at this position where it shows like whole lines and colored part, and you can see that the emission spectra of YFP overlaps with it. Okay, so this was the reason FRET was actually happening. It's like you excite CFP at certain wavelength, it was emitting at certain wavelength, and that wavelength was overlapping with the YFP ka excitation wavelength, right? So this is in the left, you can see they are like more or less very overlapping. So this is representation of how a spectral data of a FRET sensor looks like. Okay, and on the right, okay, so there was this thing why we moved on to the circularly permuted biosensor when we already had this FRET biosensor. So the modification to the CFP biosensor was because that so that you can use the spectral data more judiciously. So as you remember that the calmodulin biosensor had only one EGFP. It was not a FRET pair. So essentially you're not using two emission peaks or the spectral data to show. So by that I mean ki you can only use GFP here shown in emerald GFP. So you can use only one protein to show one kinase. You can only use Alexa Floor 350 to show maybe another kinase or any other protein you want to map inside the cell, and then use mCherry to show maybe a third kind. So maybe let's say in a cell you're visualizing mitochondria, the nucleus, and fin in cytoplasm, let's say. So you tag GFP, you make up GFP biosensor, and you see fin like surrounded in the cytoplasm by seeing the emerald GFP emission. Okay, so there is a little bleed through between all these all these spectra, but they're not much. So with detecting your fin kinase all over this cytosol, you in addition you can use mCherry to maybe tag the mitochondria, and at the same time you can see two. So basically this presentation was to show that you can use the more efficient single spectra biosensors so that it can be more spectrally judicious. You do not have to have two peaks, two peaks and two emissions to see actually that the fin is working or not. You can just use one spectra. Moving on, these were some results published in a previous paper. So coming back to fin again. So as I said in the starting that fin was basically was studied for its function in cell migration. So this is in the figure A, you see that there is this yellow portion. What this yellow portion is, it's the emission of EGFP, and it shows that while the cell is moving, so you see furrow and you see the cell sort of moving ahead. At this stage, there is a lot of fin concentrated at the furrow, like the moving ahead furrow of the cells. In the second picture, you again you see the same. So it's sort of when you see continuously these three cells, you see that cell is moving slowly ahead, and the direction of movement is like along the quadrant 4, like on the right side, and fin is particularly active at that side. Okay, so earlier I said that fin is present everywhere. Okay, but you do not, if you put some detector which can sense fin kinase all over the cell, then the whole cell will glow. You basically will get the spectra of the whole cell, and which will glow, like show yellow fluorescence only. But we particularly want to study the cell at the migration stage, right? So this cell is migrating on the right, on the ACA first, the first panel. You can see the movement of this cell is at right side, and the fin concentration is concentrated, like it's highly concentrated there. So there fin is active, and it's like in huge amount, and it might be present in other parts of the cell also, but that's not active. So that is how this biosensor is helping you to see only the active fin, and like we wanted it to study for cellular migration, right? So Fin is active and it's helping in cellular migration, and that was established by this picture. So when you move to BK1, so then you see U2 as non-binder. So what this non-binder is, it's essentially you are mutating certain parts of the F29 binder so that it doesn't bind to Fin SH3. Mostly you were like breaking down, maybe you tried with some salt bridge. So this was totally trial and error and permutation and like combination maybe, and then then they found out one non-binder. So that one non-binder was used for totally control, like just to show ki when the Fin binder is not interacting with the Fin SH3, it's showing it's not glowing at all. But when the Fin sensor is actually attaching to the fin, it's showing its activity in on state. So this was pretty much it. Okay, the floor is open for question. Hello.
Okay, so you mentioned that you will talk a bit about the drawbacks of the sensor, the one following the FRET one.
Yeah, that is why I said कि please response कि मतलब कौन से का बताऊं, कौन से का मतलब what links I have to make more. Like I don't know मतलब कितना समझ आया नहीं आया ना. So okay, I'll start from the start. Archishman, we did speak about this slide, right? What was the shortfall of this FRET sensor so that we have to move on to the next sensor?
Sorry?
We did talk about what was the shortfall of these sensors so that we move on to the next design, right? Okay. So primarily the spectral part was the explanation why we moved on to the circularly permuted design. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Ask more question, please.
Sorry, I didn't get the motivation for the circular permuted biosensors.
Hello.
Cool. Yes, say.
Yeah. I want to know a little bit about the F29 binder part. Like can you please move on to that slide?
F29 binder part. Cool. Yeah.
This one. So here, there were, like Sushim Bhai has said, like there were red lines, black lines, blue lines resembling this salt bridges, covalent, and other types of bonds. So at a particular time, like when it binds, like it will bind only salt bridges, or it will bind only covalent, or at a time it will bind like all of those, like whatever bonds are there.
Really nice question. So actually, when the NMR studies were done, okay, so all these interactions were looked upon. So when your Fin binder is essentially attaching to the Fin SH3 active part, it forms all of these bond at once. So
okay, thank you.
Fin actually the Fin binder was made artificially to specifically bind to Fin SH3 part.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
Please ask more questions, please.
Yeah, and another thing like about that, this one, CPGFP cam and M13. Like you said that the calcium 2+ ions just come and get in between that M13 and cam. So at a particular
You
time
can
the
see in this picture. Yeah.
so they bind and stay over there, or they get removed like at a certain intervals.
That's a really good question. So imagine this scenario. Uh, you see a fertilized zebrafish egg, right? Embryo, right? So it's going on like furrow. You can see the furrows, right? And there you see the biosensor active.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the first picture, in the let's say the 30 mpf quadrant, the biosensor was still there.
Okay.
You have injected that biosensor in this or somehow genetically expressed this biosensor in the the embryo in the 30 mpf part also. Okay, but you do not see any red color or the EGFP function here, right?
Yes.
Then you move on to your right, like the first quadrant, that is 40 mpf. In this quadrant, you see the biosensor active at the furrow, because on like while furrowing Ca2, so Ca2 ion comes and it sends out waves of contraction. Okay, and that is what triggers the furrowing of this zebrafish embryo further. So in the next quadrant, like Q1, Q2, Q3. So in the Q3 quadrant, that is 55 mpf, you see the furrowing is happening further, right? And the biosensor is all like, it's only active at the furrow part. It's not active any other green portion. Okay. So that means that this biosensor is only active at the furrow, and that means that your calcium ion are only coming when this furrow furrow is happening, or like the furrow cleavage is happening.
Okay, got it. And what about that intensity of the CP-EGFP? Like, at what factor does it like?
I cannot hear you. Your voice is very choppy. Hello.
Hello, Dee.
Yeah.
Hello.
Bhuvan, are you muted? Just unmute yourself, then.
Yeah, actually, who was asking me questions? I cannot hear you anymore.
Tapovan.
Your voice was very. Yeah. Your voice was very choppy. Yeah, please ask.
Dee, it's Arupam.
I wanted to ask that. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that CP-EGFP. It glows, right, when calcium 2 plus binds in between them.
Yeah.
When the furrow is formed.
Yeah.
So, like, I wanted to ask that the intensity about like कितना ज़्यादा जोर से वो ग्लो करता है, like कौन से फैक्टर पे डिपेंड करता है, वैसा कुछ है या नहीं?
Yeah. That's a really nice question. So I'll go back to a slide. So I told you guys about CPGFP, right? On the the picture A, which is showing you beta barrel structure of green fluorescent protein. Okay. So what do you understand? Ki green fluorescent protein hai to it will glow green, right? And on the right side in B, please respond. मुझे मतलब कितना बोलना है, कब तक बोलना समझ नहीं आ रहा है. So in the right side, you see a array of fluorescent proteins. So one of them is EBFP, which is glowing like blue. ECFP is giving out slightly light bluish color or whatever. So while you're doing an experiment or you're designing a biosensor, okay, so it's not like you know that you have to check the CA2 plus furrow तभी तुम ये वाला बनाओगे, तभी you're taking the EGFP thing. Okay, so there is a lot of combination and permutation that goes there. That let's take EGFP. Oh, it's not showing that. So there is this thing called dynamic range. That's a part मैं आगे बता दूंगी. But there are a lot of problems while making a biosensor. So for example, you're taking GFP. Okay, so in this circularly permuted biosensor, you started with GFP because that is the first protein you know, first fluorescent protein you know. But then you see कि when you see it under microscope or under laser, when you're exciting it under laser, you do not see that much of glow or fluorescence. Okay, so then you move on and you see कि what else you can use. Then you move on to enhanced GFP. So this is what these guys also did. So they moved on to see whether EGFP works or not. Okay. So they made this calmodulin biosensor with EGFP, and then they saw that it works pretty much well. Like,
okay, yeah,
I guess it's like fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the role of CAM?
Calmodulin, okay. So calmodulin, ये protein जो है, this was not invented, it was discovered long ago, that calmodulin has the power to sense calcium ion flux. Okay, so let's say कि you're taking calmodulin and you're putting it in this experiment scenario. Okay, so you take this transgenic zebrafish embryo and you just put calmodulin in it. Okay, so you are putting calmodulin will go to like near that furrow and it will catch the calcium ions. But how do you know that? Like वो उसको कैच कर रहा है कि नहीं और कहाँ पे कर रहा है, how do you know that? So for that you need, so when you stain a cell, when you going back to a cell, you need to know certain components of the cell. So you dye it basically. ठीक है, तो you dye it, you fix the cell, then you know अच्छा ये structure था इसमें, अच्छा ये mitochondria था. Acha, you use various kind of dyes, but most of the dyes, what they do is like sort of arrest the organ at that place, and it's sort of fixated cell which you see under the microscope. But here you cannot kill the zebrafish embryo, right? You want to see the development. मतलब you want कि ये alive रहे. So the live action, what is happening, which can be visualized only after you attach the EGFP to it. So the basic funda for calmodulin was it just catches and senses CA2 plus influx.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions? More questions, please.
Yes. This is me. This is fine. When we are developing something like this, like a biosensor, like the thought goes into making it in the first place. Is it a bit of intuition, a bit of logic, or I mean, how does the approach go on while making the sensor?
That's a very nice question. So, okay. So our lab was Akash Guliani's lab. So his permanent, like his postdoc, his postdoc work, which I showed here, was, you can see Akash Guliani et al., which was published in 2011. So this biosensor was very primitive. Okay, you can see they have like taken 3 components, and it was like not बहुत पहले, it was 2011 only. So they made this very primitive biosensor model just to check fin. So fin उनका like बहुत पहले से target था, ठीक है. So this guy was inherently what you say कि interested in fin only. So then he went on to have his own lab, which I worked in. So इस लैब में then he said कि हाँ, I did work on fin kinase. I made this biosensor, and what all possible biosensors you can make, or we can make, like what are the designs you can think of which can inherently detect the biosensor, the fin kinase in active state. So when you say what was the thought process behind it, so
was it a little bit of trial and error as well?
Yeah, sure. So in any experiment, it's sort of informed choices or informed guesses you make, right? So how do you make an informed guess? You read a lot of previous literature, right? So Akash Guliani, he published this in 2011. So this was the basis for like further making the biosensors in the lab, right? So अब ऐसा तो नहीं है कि only this lab made a biosensor. A lot of other labs like took fluorescent proteins and made biosensors, right? So then they saw कि हाँ आसपास लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, what are the other. So FRET biosensor, this particular FRET biosensor, Mukherjee and Singh et al., this was the PhD scholar I was working with. So these guys use this FRET technology to make it specific for fin kinase. It's not like कि FRET का concept हमने दिया है. They took the FRET concept, so they thought कि what concept other than this primitive marrow body biosensor structure they can put in, and they saw कि अरे यार FRET, there is this FRET thing, it seems very cool, so let's try that. Okay, so it's not that easy. मतलब मैंने तो ऐसे ही बोल दिया, but a lot of previous studies, कितना feasible है. So you need to detect the fin kinase in active state. So for detecting the fin kinase in active state, what else you can do? So yeah, that was like basically that's how they made a binder to SH3. Then they attached the M vinculin to the binder and the M cellulin to the SH3 domain, so that when SH3 and binder comes to contact with each other, तुम्हारा M cellulin and N vinculin sort of shows the FRET sense, like FRET outcome or whatever you say, readout. Sorry, yeah.
So it has to be very educated guess and has to like come from the mind itself to approach and make this finally.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's not as easy as watching a tutorial and making something at home, but yeah, you get the feel, right? So you see कि हमारे पास what is the basis we have, what are the basic foundations we have, what are the other biosensor structures going around, right? So the CPGFP model we are working with, you can see that CPGFP model is not new. Okay, this was made. Oh, I didn't cite the guy. Yeah, I did, I guess. It's on the very left side. Hyde, Mizuniki, and Atsushi Miyawaki in Raken paper. So this concept was given by them, but we made it in such a way that it becomes specific for our fin target. So हमारे लैब का लाइक फंडा है कि फिन के पीछे पड़े रहना है, ठीक है? तो अब फिन डिटेक्ट करना है, तो फिन में तुम लाइक what are the other designs you can take and incorporate it into a biosensor design or make a new biosensor which can detect fin in active state. That was the idea.
And what are the softwares which were used for doing the whole thing?
Software as in so there were a lot of experimental studies, lab work, not just software. So yeah, software.
There had to be some sort of programming to some extent, right? To check the protein structure.
True. Yeah.
I was just asking how much of it was
the programming part was not mine fully. That is why I didn't introduce it here. But yeah, there has been a programming work in sort of so in this part you can see. So the lab majorly works on imaging. Okay. After you make a biosensor, you have to do imaging, like as much imaging as you can, right? So that you have a significant data to show कि हाँ ये high fret दिखाता है और इस case में low fret दिखाता है. So for that you need a lot of picture image processing. Yeah, वहाँ पे not software, तुम्हारा coding वगैरह आता है. There is no there was a lot of dry work which was not done by me and which is not mentioned here, but हाँ इसके पीछे है काफी सारा. So a lot of things goes behind making a whole a project whole, like parts experimental, parts coding and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
What is the time scale for this sensing experiment?
Very good question. What is the time scale as in?
As in like how much time does this sensing experiment take? When you from a sensor, from finding a particular sensor to doing the experiment, what is the time scale?
Are you saying कि मतलब जब when we start making a biosensor then we detect it, or are you saying कि imaging में कितना time लगता है और activity detect करने में कितना time लगता है?
From like making a biosensor to the imaging, how much time does it take to do the whole experiment?
मेरे PhD scholar को तो 5-6 साल लग गया यार.
I'm sorry?
It takes a lot of years, like actually, like the whole PhD, like my PhD scholar's whole PhD was based on like making it from scratch.
No, he is not asking that. He is asking mainly what is the time for experiment.
Not the biosensor designing part, the actual experiment. When you design the biosensor, after that, putting it in a cell and then imaging it, how much time does that take?
Okay, that is a very nice question. वो तो काफी महीना लगता है. So basically, अगर इसको step by step we break down. So my job was making like transfecting these cells with fin kinase, fin sensor. So acha, basically we have I had the biosensor, okay, and I had a mutant of the biosensor, okay. So the mutant biosensor was like, I was trying to make the mutant biosensor, which took me 6 months. So all of that aside, if we start at the point where we have a biosensor and we have a non-binder. So biosensor, you put, what do? You put it in E. coli, you further propagate it, you isolate the DNA, which might take, I don't know, like the biosensor is basically expressed in E. coli, right? So when after you isolate the DNA from the E. coli, it takes like several days. Uske baad वो DNA लेके basically you take the engineered DNA, then you inject it inside the cell. Okay, so for the cell to take up the DNA, it takes 1 day, and then for you do not image it right away. You like let it settle for some day, then you see कि actually में तुम्हारा transfer. So that part is called transfection. So then you see कि तुमने जो biosensor inject किया था cells में, it transfected into your cell or not. So after maybe there are time points like 12 hours. You check whether you can see something glowing or not. After 24 hours, you check whether you can see something glowing or not. So then there are different time points at which you take the cell and go for imaging. So
yeah.
yeah.
You basically inject the biosensor in E. coli first before putting it in the cell.
So I'll tell you what, when you make a biosensor, okay, so you're basically, so as you can see, I was rubbishing about this A wala diagram, ठीक है, कि ये strip लिया, वो strip लिया, ठीक है. So here what you see is the protein structure, right? So we do not take the protein and put it in cell. What we do is we genetically modify like certain, we make primers, we genetically modify some existing piece of the EGFP or the biosensor, like जब हम permutation combination करेंगे, so then you PCR it, then you make the DNA, so you get a very little amount of DNA. You take 1 microliter or 2-3 microliter. The DNA has the biosensor, which then gets expressed later. We do not put the biosensor protein directly into the cell. Okay, so you put it in E. coli for the vector to take it in. You do a lot of genetic engineering stuff, and then you grow it in E. coli. So E. coli में उसको further transfer करने का ये फायदा होता है कि E. coli grows like crazy, right? तो तुम you get a lot of amount from you started with 1 to 2 gram of the genetic material, and then you isolate it from, when you isolate it from E. coli, you get a like तब तुम्हारे पास almost 1 ml तक का DNA material आ जाता है. Then you take that DNA like how much ever you want. It's not taking much, like after that also it's taken 1 microliter or something, then you transfect it in the cells.
Okay, so it's sort of
like hello?
Yeah, it's sort of like getting more sensor material. Biosensor
yeah, you can say that. It's like amplifying.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are basic biomolecular technique. So this is there are a lot of things goes inside the biosensor making, and like after that a lot of thing goes inside characterizing it, propagating it, imaging it. So एक इंसान नहीं कर सकता ये. So the whole lab has to do like छोटा part many people has to do. So it goes on like that.